Good morning, a good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar from Evidence to Sustainable Impact, launch of the ICARS Strategy 2026 to 2030. My name is Kristina Osbjer. I am the Director of Science and Programs with ICARS, and I will take you through today's 1-hour session. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. We are really pleased to have colleagues, partners, project teams, funders, board members, and the wider AMR stakeholders joining us from around the globe. So before we start, just listing a few practical matters. Today's webinar is being recorded. The recording and all the relevant links will be shared with you afterwards, so you don't have to worry about revisiting any part of the discussions. You're very welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. We please ask you to provide any questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And you can add any questions throughout the entire webinar, and we will come back to them during the moderated Q&A session at the end of this webinar. We might not, though, be able to answer all the questions, but we will really do our best to try and cover the main themes that do come through in the questions. And afterwards, please also keep your eye on the ICARS LinkedIn webpage and the website, where we will showcase highlights and reflections and links to the new strategy, so that you stay tuned. And with that, I would like to move to the first agenda item, handing over to open today's webinar. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Henrik Wegener, who is the chairperson of ICARS Board of Directors. Over to you, Henrik.
Thank you very much, Kristina, and hello, everyone. Also from my parts, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's a great pleasure to have you here. It's of utmost importance to ICARS that all ICARS stakeholders and collaborators and anyone with an interest in ICARS mission take part in the discussion of ICARS' new strategy. ICARS is still a young organization. ICARS has completed one strategic cycle, and we're now going into the second strategic cycle. And in changing and challenging circumstances, some would say strategy is more important than ever. And needless to say that trying to look 5 years ahead in the current global world order can be both daunting and even a challenge in its own right. But I think and know for certain that ICARS has developed a strategy that will enable it to navigate in the challenging circumstances that we are all facing, so that ICARS can deliver on its bold mission and hopes of impact, but not without the contribution of everyone who are taking part in this webinar, as well as all the organizations that ICARS collaborate with. So thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you very much, hopefully, for your active engagement in our questions and answers session later. But without that and without further ado, on behalf of the board, I'm happy to hand over to Kristina, who will pass the word to our Executive Director, Helle. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks a lot, Henrik, for those welcome remarks, and I will hand over to Helle to give additional welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Kristina, and thank you to all of you coming here. I think it's really a pleasure to see so many familiar and new names on the list of participants here today. Thanks a lot for taking a time out of what I assume is a busy schedule to join this launch of our new strategy 2026 to 2030. This is in fact an important moment for ICARS. It's our second organizational strategy, and it comes after 6 years of growth. We have developed this strategy through a thorough process of reflection, where we've actually used the learnings from our first years to strengthen our approach for the coming 5 years, but also with a view to the changing global landscape, as Henrik was already talking about. So over the past 6 years, ICARS has grown from a young organization, a startup really, to a well-established, credible organization with a broad project portfolio, strong partnerships, and a clear understanding of where we add value. It's been quite an adventure, and personally, I've been honored to be part of this journey, seeing the immense growth, not least in terms of the number of people and the organizations that we are partnering with. And speaking about growth, I also want to recognize Dr. Sudhith Chandy, who led ICARS from 23 to 26, and who is also present in our call here today. We are proud to build on the important progress which Sudhith created and we had under his leadership. Now, looking at the core of ICARS work, our projects on AMR mitigation in low and middle income countries, as you can see on the slide here, we have now supported 77 projects across 33 countries, spanning human health, animal health, agri-food systems, and the environment. This work has confirmed our approach, which is that AMR solutions must respond to country priorities and they must build on national action plans. Local ownership and sustainability must be part of project design from the very beginning. And assessing interventions and what works in real life settings requires that we look beyond the technical evidence and also factor in economic assessments, behavior change, incentives, systems, financing, and not least the political context. We have also learned evidently from building ICARS as an organization. First of all, our portfolio of partnerships have grown. Our internal systems and a strong operational setup has been developed alongside that growth, and we've become clearer about our key role, working at the intersection of research, policy, and practice in order to support context-appropriate AMR solutions in low and middle income countries. And I'm really pleased to say that based on this approach, we are now starting to see results coming out from some of the first ICARS-supported projects. And let me just give you a few examples before we move into talking more about the strategy. In Kyrgyzstan, the use of CRP point-of-care testing for children with respiratory tract infections have led to a 24 percentage point reduction in antibiotic use among children receiving CRP-guided care. And this evidence is now informing the Ministry of Health efforts to expand this beyond the study sites in the primary healthcare sector. An example from the animal sector in Vietnam, an ICARS-supported aquaculture project demonstrated that vaccinated fish raised in ponds required 60% fewer antibiotics than those unvaccinated, and actually at the same time, fish mortality was reduced by 34%. Now, these are just a few examples. They are not the full picture, but they show the kind of practical country-led evidence which ICARS was really created to generate. Apart from building on these learnings, our own learnings, an important element, as already mentioned in our strategy process, has been to consider the significant shifts in the world today. On the one hand, AMR has gained strong political momentum, particularly after the 2024 UN General Assembly high-level meeting, which defined specific targets for global AMR mitigation efforts. On the other hand, the capacity to implement is significantly challenged due to the geopolitical crisis and the shift in global financing architecture, which put resources for global health and development under pressure. The result is a critical implementation gap, especially in low and middle income countries, which at the same time face the highest burden and consequences of AMR, and which so urgently need solutions that are based on country priorities and local context. The ongoing debate about the global health architecture is demonstrating the inherent problems in the current global health landscape, where in fact AMR is a catalyst for reform, demonstrating the system's structural failures. I think you can say that to a certain extent, AMR is the canary bird of the global health system. Due to the cross-border cross-sectoral and multidisciplinary nature of AMR, it exposes the flaws of a fragmented, siloed, and underfunded global health systems, putting at risk the significant health gains of the last decades. Now, I'm pleased to say that ICARS' approach is already aligned with central points in this debate, basing our work on equitable partnerships, co-development, and country priorities, seeking integrated solutions and health and food system strengthening. But with the new strategy, we are recognizing that we can do even more to move in this direction, and we work diligently to contribute to the achievement of the global commitments of the UN Political Declaration, as well as the newly adopted Global Action Plan on AMR, which in fact ICARS supported, and we are working now fully aligned with its priorities. On the basis of all of this, we have now developed a new strategy which responds to the global context and is aligned with our learning so far. As you will see from the illustration here, the roof of the house, our vision, is unchanged. We want to see a world where drug-resistant infections no longer pose a threat to the health of humans and animals, the environment, global food security, and economic prosperity. At the foundation, you will see our mission, which has been sharpened to show that ICARS works to advance implementation of innovative and evidence-informed AMR solutions aligned with national strategic priorities in low and middle income countries through research, partnerships, and capacity strengthening. We will be achieving this through 3 programmatic and 2 cross-cutting pillars, which good colleagues will present to you in a moment. And in the green boxes, you will recognize our core principles, which are really a foundation for the way that we work: local ownership, One Health, integrated action, sustainability, and last but not least, equitable partnerships. It's important for me to underline that with this new strategy, we are staying true to ICARS' mandate. ICARS will continue to partner with low and middle income countries to support country-owned AMR solutions. We will work across the One Health sectors, and we will be using intervention and implementation research to bridge evidence, policy, and practice. We will be focusing on solutions that are feasible, cost-effective, and relevant to local context, and we will also continue to elevate low and middle-income country voices in global and regional AMR and global health debates. What has changed is that we are applying what we have learned. We will have a much stronger focus on sustainability from the start, helping partners to move from successful project results towards uptake and scale up, and showing the economic and policy relevance of the solutions that we are supporting. We will further have stronger support for the adaptation and adoption of new innovations. We will also be looking more into interdisciplinary research, which integrates AMR mitigation into broader development agendas, and we will have more multi-country collaboration. As you will see also from this illustration here, capacity strengthening will be integrated across all of our initiatives, and we will also, as an organization, have an even stronger focus on documentation of results and providing value for money, which we recognize is simply an imperative in the current global funding landscape. So to finish, the overall message here is really that our new strategy is both continuity and evolution. It's a refinement to the global landscape and the situation in our low and middle income country partner countries. Over the next 5 years, we will be focusing on making ICARS even more focused, more evidence and impact driven, more responsive to partners, and more effective in supporting innovative and sustainable AMR mitigation, which is really at the heart of what we do. Basically, we want to ensure that investing in AMR mitigation through ICARS delivers impact, value for money, and through that, the ambition is really to position ICARS as the leading global implementation partner for AMR in low and middle income countries. So again, thank you very much for joining. I look forward to following the debate. And I will now hand over to Sunday, who will be presenting the first programmatic pillar. Over to you, Sunday.
Thank you so much, Helle. And talking about evidence testing, I want to highlight here that evidence testing, adaptation, and uptake will remain ICARS core work. It is where we concentrate majority of our investment, and it carries forward the implementation research that has defined us since 2021. What has evolved is our emphasis. We are now placing, like Helle said, even greater weight on sustainable impact. By that, we mean evidence that is not simply just generated, but adopted, integrated into policy and practice, and sustained beyond the life of any single project. That reflects a very clear lesson from our first strategy period. And over the next 5 years, this pillar rests on 3 commitments. First is that we will strengthen country-led prioritization and contextualization, and we will work with partners to ensure interventions respond to local needs, that they are aligned with national development goals, and that they are informed by global and regional guidance. And the principle here is that countries set the agenda, and our role is to support them to do so on the strongest possible evidence base. In practice, that means we will, together with partners, prioritize according to be it AMR burden, population vulnerability, and even implementation readiness. Our second commitment is that we will support LMIC partners to test, adapt, and apply evidence, and to scale cost-effective and context-appropriate AMR solutions across the One Health sectors. The emphasis on adaptation is very deliberate. We are not just transferring solutions wholesale from one setting to another. We will help partners to take approaches that work, fit them carefully into their context, and apply them even much more affordably. We do this through a connected set of mechanisms where the evidence base is not yet developed. We will produce or provide resources for preparatory projects to strengthen feasibility. And where readiness is sufficient, projects will proceed to intervention and implementation research, which means we will remain very core and very true to our delivery mechanism, which is the IRR framework, as Helle has mentioned. And I want to mention that even in the next 5 years, One Health will even be better embedded across our project portfolio. Our third commitment is that we will facilitate access to financing opportunities to enhance scale-up. This reflects perhaps the most important lesson we have learned over the last 5 years. Sound evidence on its own does not change practice. Successful uptake depends on government ownership, policy relevance, and on sustained financing beyond the research phase. So we are designing for scale-up right from inception and engaging governments and policymakers from the very start, rather at the end. And on financing specifically, ICARS will work increasingly as a connector, linking our projects to co-funders, to development finance institutions, and also other implementation partners, so that proven solutions can be sustained and expanded once a project concludes. And I think, in summary, taken together, this is the essence of Pillar 1. I hand over to my colleague Danilo at this point.
Thank you very much, Sunday. So I'm proud to present the second pillar of the new strategy. And the second pillar is called Applied Innovation and Transformative Research. First and foremost, I'd like to point out that this pillar supports the work that's conducted under Pillar 1 that Sunday just explained, either directly or indirectly, sooner or later. It provides the space for ICARS to explore new themes, new geographies, new modes of delivery, and to engage with new partners, also outside the AMR community. So it's an important mechanism within the strategy to ensure that our work remains relevant and responsive to emerging needs. And as the title suggests, this is where ICARS can grow and focus on early application and adoption of innovations that can help address real-world AMR challenges in low and middle-income countries. Now, over the next 5 years, we will focus on 3 main areas in Pillar 2. The first main area is applied innovation. It's important to note that ICARS is not entering the business of developing new technologies. We see our role as to help bridge the gap between innovation and implementation. We support the adaptation and early adoption of new innovations that respond to identified needs and address practical implementation barriers in low and middle income contexts. These could include technologies, service models, tools, and processes. Could be rapid diagnostics, AR-enabled stewardship systems, digital tools, and other approaches that have the potential to improve AMR mitigation, but still require testing, adaptation, and uptake in real-world settings. The second main area is transformative research. And we all know that AMR is connected to broader challenges across human health, animal health, food systems, the environment, and increasingly climate-related agendas. To address AMR effectively, we need research that cuts across these traditional boundaries. And under this pillar, we will support interdisciplinary research that integrates AMR into broader development agendas and has the potential to shape policies and transform systems. So the aim is not to simply generate knowledge, but to generate evidence that can challenge and change existing approaches, identify new opportunities, and contribute to more sustainable and equitable solutions. The third area is multi-country collaboration. Many countries face similar AMR challenges, but often work on them independently. ICARS can play an important role in bringing researchers from different countries and institutions together to learn from one another, support each other, and build on existing experience and expertise. And through this multi-country collaboration, we want to promote shared learning and support the integration of both new and proven approaches into policy and practice. So this allows us to accelerate learning, avoid duplication of effort, and increase the potential for impact across different settings. And finally, under this pillar, ICARS will also selectively engage in original collaborative research initiatives with other funders and research consortia. Purpose is to help address critical gaps in AMR mitigation, test new ideas, strengthen the evidence base, and ensure that ICARS remains well-positioned within a rapidly evolving global funding and research landscape, as Helle mentioned earlier. So in summary, Pillar 2 enables ICARS to look ahead and identify promising opportunities, generate new knowledge, test new approaches, and create partnerships that ultimately can strengthen and expand the impact of our core work on AMR mitigation. I'd now like to hand over to my colleague Theresa to take us through Pillar 3.
Dear everyone, advocacy and engagement with policy are central to advancing AMR mitigation efforts, and they are key priorities for ICARS. We focus on integrating AMR into wider global health and development and financing agendas. Here, AMR is often overshadowed by more urgent priorities, and realities and needs in low and middle income countries are often addressed to a limited extent in global decision-making. We strive to elevate and amplify low and middle income country voices and leadership in global and regional policy dialogues. So we work closely with our partners in countries on advocacy to bring their perspectives to New York, Geneva, Brasilia, Nairobi, Bangkok, and more. Together, we draw upon evidence and data from across our project portfolio to inform policy development and uptake, and to advocate for stronger prioritization of AMR. We also support strengthening of network dialogues, and South-South partnerships. This enables knowledge exchange, peer-to-peer learning, and coordinated action, and it raises the profile of AMR as a cross-cutting sustainable development challenge. These enabling environments are key to achieving sustainable impact at scale. Our regional presence in Africa is going to further support and facilitate these efforts. Also, our mission partners play a very important role in bringing realities, challenges, evidence, and best practices into policy dialogues. Strong partnerships are essential to deliver our mission, both in our core efforts with our project partners in countries and with a wide group of partners for advocacy. So the different partners we are working with are implementation partners. These are project partners in low and middle income countries, where local multidisciplinary teams drive and lead the implementation of projects. They come from the public and private sectors, civil society, and ministries. We also collaborate with institutions and organizations located globally beyond low and middle income countries to support the testing, adaptation, and implementation of solutions. Mission partners are low and middle income country governments who share our vision and act as ambassadors for ICARS. They partner closer with us and have a key role in advocacy efforts, as they join and speak in regional and global policy fora, high-level meetings, and roundtables. They bring country perspectives and realities into policy discussions. They also influence our strategic direction in ICARS by taking a seat in our board of directors. We are proud, as one example, to have Dr. Chizimu with us here today. He's representing Zambia as a mission partner in our board, and he will be speaking shortly. Funding partners are countries, foundations, and organizations contributing financial resources to ICARS. They are essential partners as they fund our organization and all the work that we facilitate. We're pleased at ICARS to start seeing evidence and results from our projects, and these partners appreciate very much to see return on investment and impact from our efforts. Some of the funding partners, that is, they join us with a significant multi-year investment and can then join our board of directors and influence ICARS' strategic direction, as well as impact the global AMR situation. So to conclude on advocacy and policy, over the next 5 years, we will, in close collaboration with our partners, advocate for AMR to be prioritized and integrated into wider global health development and financing agendas. And that includes pandemic preparedness, system strengthening, global health security, and planetary health agendas. We will also continue elevating low and middle income country realities, voices, and leadership in high-level policy forums and global dialogues. And lastly, strengthen and expand partnerships to support the translation of evidence into policy and uptake at regional and global levels. Thank you, and I will now pass the word to my colleague, Science Officer Sarah from Humboldt-Scotland.
Thanks a lot, Theresa. So I'm presenting Pillar 4 today, which is our capacity strengthening pillar. And as a cross-cutting pillar, capacity strengthening is not a standalone activity for ICARS. It is woven into everything we do. So every project we support, every partnership we build, none of it delivers lasting change unless the people and the institutions we work with are equipped to carry it forward. So this is what this pillar is about. And so our primary ambition is actually not to run a training program from Copenhagen. It is to ensure that capacity strengthening is built directly into every ICARS-supported project, from the moment we start co-developing with our project teams through to implementation and ideally beyond. So this means that our science officers and advisors work closely with the project teams. It means to embed learning into the real work, meaning supporting our project teams and partners to design studies, develop tools, write publications, and implement interventions. So that hand-on collaboration is itself capacity strengthening. And it means that when a project ends, what remains is not just outputs, but stronger teams and institutions with the capacities to sustain and build on those results. So over the next 5 years, our capacity strengthening work is structured around the theoretical framework for capacity strengthening, which you can see on the right side in the picture. I will only focus on the 3 levels that you see, the individual, institutional, and system level. So at the individual level, in relation to capacity strengthening, we focus on the people doing the work. So strengthening the technical research and operational skills of our project teams, partners, researchers, clinicians, veterinarians, government officials, and so on, who are actually the ones implementing the AMR solutions on the ground. And then at the institutional level, we go beyond individual skills to focus on the organizations. So individual expertise only drives lasting change when it is embedded in institutions with the systems, culture, and governance to actually sustain it. So this means supporting partner institutions to build quality improvement practices, mentorship cultures, and operational excellence that outlast the project. And then at the system level, we invest in the enabling environment, the policies, networks, and coordinating mechanisms that allow locally generated evidence to be translated into national AMR responses. Through South-South collaborations, knowledge exchange, and support for LMIC voices on regional and global platforms, we are working towards a growing community of connected, empowered AMR stakeholders who drive their own responses. And underpinning all these three levels is actually our own internal capacity, ensuring that ICARS staff are equipped with the technical and operational expertise to deliver this high-quality support to project teams and partners. So together, these commitments are how we build a growing body of skilled, connected, and empowered AMR stakeholders across LMICs who are capable of leading and sustaining their own responses. Capacity strengthening is cross-cutting. It's running through everything ICARS does, and it is what ensures our investments in evidence, innovation, and policy to generate sustainable impact that outlasts individual projects. It is how we move from outputs to systemic change and why it sits as a dedicated pillar within our strategy. And with this, I'm going to hand over to Mes, who is going to present Pillar 5.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I have the privilege of introducing Pillar 5, which is about governance and organizational effectiveness. Now, compared to the other pillars, this one may not immediately sound the most exciting. We're not talking about innovative technologies, implementation research, or about influencing global policy. But in many ways, Pillar 5 is what makes all of those things possible. Because no matter how strong our ambitions are, we can only deliver impact if we have an organization that is effective, sustainable, and fit for purpose. This is therefore about ensuring that ICARS continues to be a strong, credible, and trusted partner in the global AMR response. It's about creating the conditions that allow all other pillars to succeed. Over the past 7 years, ICARS has grown from a Danish initiative into a globally recognized organization working in more than 30 countries. With this new strategy, we are setting ourselves even more ambitious goals. We want greater impact, we want stronger partnerships, we want to be closer to our partners in LMICs, and we want to play an even more influential role in the global AMR landscape. To achieve this, we must continue investing in the organization itself. So over the next 5 years, our work will focus on 4 key areas. First, we will intensify our strategic fundraising to ensure ICARS' financial sustainability and advance our ambition for legal status as an international organization. The AMR funding landscape is becoming increasingly competitive, and long-term impact requires long-term sustainability. We therefore need to broaden and diversify our funding base, strengthen strategic partnership, and position ICARS for the future. This is not only about securing resources, it's about creating a stronger and more resilient organization that can continue supporting countries and partners for the years to come. And second, we will advance our presence in all regions, building our experiences from Africa to ensure closer engagement and collaboration with LMIC partners. Our work is most effective when it's grounded in local realities and shaped by strong relationships. Regional presence allows us to be closer to partners, better understand context-specific challenges and opportunities, and strengthen country ownership of AMR solutions. ICARS Africa is an important first step, and we will build on those lessons as we continue to evolve. Third, we will champion diversity, equity, and inclusion while enhancing operational excellence through streamlined systems, tools, and procedures. As the organization grows, we must ensure that our ways of working evolve as well. We want to become increasingly effective, efficient, and agile. This means improving systems and processes, making better use of data and technology, and ensuring that diversity, equity, and inclusion remain embedded in how we work and collaborate. And fourth, we will strengthen governance, monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning to ensure transparency, accountability, of course, and evidence-driven decision-making for continuous improvement. Strong governance is fundamental to trust and credibility. At the same time, we want to be an organization that continuously learns and adapts. By strengthening how we monitor performance, measure results, capture learning, and make decisions, we can improve both our effectiveness and our impact over time. Ultimately, the ambition of Pillar 5 is simple. It is to ensure that ICARS continues to be recognized as a strong, relevant, credible, and impactful partner in the global AMR response. Thanks. And I hand it over to Titha from ICARS Africa.
Hi, greetings everybody. Jambo from ICARS Africa. We are the new regional hub for ICARS. We are currently being hosted in Nairobi by Amref Health. We are the next step in the growth of ICARS, working with African countries, project teams, and in collaboration with partners and stakeholders in Africa to make AMR solutions that work on the continent. We're here to work with you and to collaborate with you. We are ready to test the evidence, innovate, advocate, support capacity building while implementing the strategic plan of ICARS in Africa, ensuring that the ICARS vision of practical, sustainable, and country-driven AMR solutions are translated into measurable impact across the continent. As I basically close out, I just wanted to say, lastly, be part of the journey of ICARS Africa. We are going to launch the new ICARS Regional Hub in August. I would like to extend an invitation to all of you to be part of this process, to be part of the journey. On the 27th of August, we're going to launch the Regional Hub. The invitation is coming through in the mail. Thank you very much. I'm handing it over to Kristina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Titha, and also thanks to all the other speakers for walking us through the strategic pillars and what they mean for ICARS over the coming 5 years. We are now moving to the next agenda item, which is a panel with members of the ICARS Board of Directors. So I'm very pleased to welcome now Dr. Henrik Wegener, Dr. Renu Swarup, and Dr. Joseph Chizimu. We don't have much time, so I kindly ask the panelists only one question and kindly be focused in your response. I start with Joseph. Joseph, as the first board member representing an ICARS mission partner, which is Zambia, you are really bringing in an important partner country perspective to ICARS governance. With mission partners playing such a key role as advocates for AMR mitigation, how can the ICARS new strategy help to further elevate LMIC leadership and voices in global AMR action? Please, over to you, Joseph.
Thank you so much for that question, Kristina. I see ICARS through this strategy as a significant step towards placing low and mid-income countries at the center of the global AMR agenda, not simply as beneficiaries of support, but as leaders and drivers of solutions. And when you look at this strategy, one of its greatest strengths is the emphasis on country-led prioritization and contextualization. Too often, MRI interventions have been designed externally and then are introduced into LMIC settings. But ICARS is taking a different approach by supporting countries to identify their own priorities, test solutions within their context, and generate evidence that is directly relevant to the local health settings. Hence, this creates ownership and sustainability. And I look forward, if you look at Pillar 3, which also emphasizes on advocacy and the policy, this commits to elevating LMIC's voices and leadership in regional and global policy forums, The countries most affected by the consequences of AMR must have stronger voices in shaping global policies, financing mechanisms, and research priorities. And I see ICARS as uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between local implementation experiences and global decision-making by ensuring that the evidence generated in these countries, such as Zambia, informs international discussions and policy processes. Let me not go without commenting on the establishment of ICARS Africa. This regional presence brings decision-making and engagement closer to countries and provides an opportunities for African-led solutions, partnerships, and learning networks, which will encourage them to flourish. I believe we'll move from the model of participation to one of partnership and leadership. As Zambia, we are proud to be part of the journey and look forward to contributing our experiences, lessons, and innovations to the global efforts to combat antimicrobial resistance. I thank you.
Thanks a lot, Joseph, and thanks a lot for bringing out the importance of actually focusing on the priorities that are identified by low and middle income countries. I will now move over to Renu, who is the co-chair of the board. Innovation, Renu, is now a core pillar of the ICARS Strategy 2026 to 2030. We're very excited about this because it's a new pillar for us. So from your perspective, how can this focus shape the next 5 years of the ICARS supported projects, particularly in developing and scaling practical AMR solution across low and middle income countries?
Thank you very much, Kristina. And yes, this is a very exciting new pillar in the ICARS strategy, which has the main theme of from implementation to impact. And if you have to take any implementation to impact, innovation is the key foundation of that. If you look at really how do we define innovation? So innovation is really responding to change in a very creative way. It's about generating new ideas, looking at new research, improving new processes, revamping products and services. And I think in the ICARS strategy, all of this is encompassed as we take it forward. The core activity of ICARS and the strength of ICARS is working with countries for country-specific solutions. And I think that's where the strength of ICARS is in how you look at innovations, which would be either for new models of implementation research. And as was said earlier, it's not about developing new innovations, but it's taking those innovations across to the last mile for scale, for uptake. Over the next 5 years, we hope and through ICARS strength and effort, there will be a lot of sharing of knowledge and best practices across LMICs. And I think that is one major strength which ICARS brings to this whole area of AMR solutions. When we bring in new innovations, which countries have been doing through their own research and through their own innovative ecosystem that they do develop new innovations. But these new innovations need adoption and adaptation. And I think ICARS' strength is that they can see it happen across various countries. This would actually allow the innovations from different countries to be scaled and to be taken across borders, which is so very important when we look at new solutions being taken forward. The new research that is done in different countries within an innovation ecosystem has one geography where they're implemented. ICAR's strength is that it works across geographies, it works across countries, and many of these solutions then need these multi-centric sites, new geographies for validation and adaptation. And I would see that over the next 5 years, this will be a major strength that ICARS is going to bring to taking this forward. So it's important that through this innovation pillar, we would be able to take solutions forward, take them to scale, take them across borders, bring in sharing of knowledge, and most importantly, bring new AMR solutions and interventions to be adopted and adapted across the globe to be able to impact not just national AMR plans, but also to be able to become an important and integral part of the global AMR strategy. Thank you, Kristina.
Thanks a lot, Renu, for that and for really emphasizing the importance of not just developing new innovations, but really making sure that they're applicable across the globe and they address different needs in LMICs. And with that, I will move over to Henrik, who's the chair of our board. Since you have become the chairperson in the ICARS board in 2021, you've really seen the organizational growth of ICARS from the very early foundations into a globally recognized AMR implementation partner. But how does this new strategy really reflect the progress that you have personally seen as a chairperson of our board of ICARS over the past 5 years? And how do you see this being implemented in ICARS over the next 5 years? Over to you, Henrik.
Thank you, Kristina. And yes, I, as well as others, have seen ICARS grow from as Helle indicated, something like a startup, if we speak innovation lingo, to maybe a scale-up organization, because I believe ICARS has now shown that it brings something unique into the global health architecture. Its approach is unique. It fills a gap, and there is a real demand for ICARS' contribution to the bigger global health system. Also, ICARS has developed as an organization, has built a strong organization with strong processes and built a strong work culture, strong, I would say, work ethics in its collaborationship with its partners, and has thereby gained respect, which is the perfect platform for scaling up and expanding ICARS' reach and impact. The project portfolio is wonderfully diverse, and I believe that ICARS has also shown that it can learn and adapt. So not everything we as ICARS thought was right in the beginning turned out to be right, but then we have changed and adapted and adopted, and ICARS has managed to always bring itself into a better situation or a better position than what was the case when challenges were met, which is, I think, the segue to this strategy, because it is a strategy that is not revolution, but evolution, as was also indicated by Helle initially. I think that is important. It shows that many of the strategic directions that were set in the beginning are and were right, and they have also been achieved by and large. So ICARS has shown that it's able to deliver also, again, on a tight budget and with tough timelines and deadlines for its actions, but has actually managed to do that very well, and therefore is in a position to scale up and grow. And one example of that is, of course, its growing international presence, and especially now with the physical presence in Africa. That's a strong sign that ICARS intends to be not only active but also present in the global health system, with also physical presence in many regions. I'm also, like Renu, excited about the word innovation. I think innovation captures very much also what ICARS is about. It is about developing solutions, and when you talk about research-based innovations, it's solutions that are based on evidence created by research, and those solutions need to be put to work in one or other setting. And there I'm also just happy to see that ICARS continues with its One Health framing of its activities, accepting and acknowledging that AMR is interlinked, and we need to get all the relevant sectors into the common, let's say, initiative to contain and control AMR. So I think we are on a good path, but I would also say that with the current global situation, of course, we also have to acknowledge that a strategy is only a strategy, and if circumstances change, then we may have to change the strategy as well. But a strategy at least keeps us on course, and we will keep that course until things change so drastically that we see a need to change it. So it's not confined to that sense. We have to accept that things are changing, and sometimes rapidly and more drastically than we had hoped for or anticipated. But now, after having seen ICARS mature and also develop over the years, I'm confident that ICARS can manage those changes and always deliver value and impact to its stakeholders also going forward.
Thanks a lot, Henrik, and also for reminding us that a strategy is only a strategy. Now comes the hard work to implement the new strategy. And I also want to express thanks to the board for making sure that the new strategy is not a revolution, but an evolution, and that we are staying true to the mandate and the core mission and vision of ICARS with a new strategy. With that, I would like to express sincere thanks to the board for answering the questions. And we now have a few questions that have come in from the audience. So we are now moving into questions from the audience. I will start with the first question that has come in before this webinar. And I will actually continue on the talk about innovations. And I am addressing this to Danilo, who was presenting to us the pillar 2. So how can the AMR community better balance investments in innovative AMR solutions with investment in the basic systems needed for sustainable implementation, especially in low and middle income country settings? Please, over to you, Danilo.
Thank you very much, Kristina. And it's an excellent and very important question. And of course, it's not really easy to answer, but I think this is the thinking behind Pillar 2. It's actually where ICARS is somewhere sort of on the interface between trying to mediate and discover or explore new innovations and see how they have a practical application. Because ultimately, innovation doesn't make sense if it doesn't have a practical application ultimately. So I think a lot has to do with the kind of partnership that we will manage to foster, the kind of additional funds that we will be raising. And I think since the strategy is still so very new, we are trying to find a balance between how can we manage the existing resources, both technical and financial in ICARS, between doing what we've shown we can do and what we do best, and moving forward, staying relevant, staying flexible. So I think it's a question we are still contemplating a lot, but it is of course really important. But I'd just like to say that innovation without any kind of practical application at the end of the line, to me, doesn't necessarily make sense. So it's about partnership. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks a lot to Danilo for that. It's not a super easy question to respond to. We have one more question that was received before the webinar. I'm addressing this to Sunday because it relates most to the pillar 1. So how can we leverage cross-sectoral partnerships to strengthen data quality for antimicrobial resistance and antimicrobial use?
Thank you, Kristina. I think it's almost the same level of complexity as Danilo's question. But I think cross-sectoral partnership is usually not an add-on to what we do. It's actually, I would say, the foundation of our model. We co-develop context-specific AMR solutions with partners, talking about ministries, research institutions across the One Health spectrum, and also building a national action plan. And I would think that that model is, I believe, our strongest lever for improving AMR and AMU data quality. And maybe I would just point 3 to 4 points to that. First, it lets us harmonize data even at the point of generation. by bringing relevant ministries, research institutes, and experts and other stakeholders together from the beginning. I would say we can agree, for example, on case definitions for sample protocols, for reporting formats, and so that the quality and usefulness of the data are even ensured right from the beginning. And secondly, it also strengthens the laboratory and diagnostic backbone where that actually quality data depend on. So reliable AMR data rests on reliable microbiology, but also partnership with the relevant laboratory expertise and strong protocol to assure the quality of the data generated. Thirdly, I would say also our approach is country-led and builds on existing national structures. The data systems we generate, they are usually strengthened by local needs, and that ownership is what makes the improvement even much more sustainable. And lastly, I would say that it connects those who generate the data with those who use it. So by bringing the ministries and bringing the researchers and all the stakeholders, the data answer real decision-making questions right from the beginning. And if you follow that trend, then it also flows back into policy and practice. So I would say that data that I use are data that are maintained and improved through the entire continuum. So collaboration or cross-sectoral collaboration actually brings in together all the needed parties that are needed for data generation and data utilization, which actually brings about the sustainability that we have been talking about when it comes to the usefulness of what is generated. I hope I attempted to answer the question.
Thanks a lot, Sunday. I know it's not easy questions to answer. And we have time for one more question, and I will actually pose that question to you, Helle, since this relates to the overall strategy. And it's a question that have just come in through our Q&A function. So what are the main evolutions compared with the previous strategy? And what is the rationale for these changes?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kristina. And yes, that is indeed a very good question, also given that we are emphasizing that actually the strategy here is both an expression of continuity and evolution, and also underlining, of course, that we are with this new strategy also staying true to the core mandate of ICARS. But I would say that that with this new strategy, we're especially looking to the conditions in the world that we are operating in, and recognizing that in a landscape where the funding is becoming even more tight, the necessity to be able to demonstrate impact is just becoming even stronger. And the title, the heading of our strategy, we have said is From Implementation to Impact, which of course is both demonstrating the journey that we have been on as an organization, but basically also with a dual understanding of the way that we in ICARS work, focusing on implementation, but with a view to achieve impact. And with that in mind, we will have a very strong focus on sustainability in all of our activities. We want to achieve more than sort of the sum of our projects. We want ICARS to move beyond that, and really to ensure uptake and scale up of our activities, showing that there is both economic and policy relevance of the solutions which we support. And then secondly, I think, which has been also very much underlined here, the inclusion of innovation in the way that we work, the focus on that, as well as interdisciplinary research. I also think recognizing the need for an approach which integrates with other global health agendas and development agendas, and moving beyond the siloed approach is really so key, and is also a new focus in our strategy. So I would say that those are the main things, but also really recognizing that across everything we do, of course, on an ongoing basis as a learning organization, we continue to integrate those learnings in all of our activities.
Thanks a lot, Helle. You can stay on. Thanks to everyone who has submitted questions, and apologies to those questions that we didn't reach here. We're still reading them. We're still reflecting on them. Stay tuned to what's coming up also on our LinkedIn page and the web page following this webinar. Thanks a lot to all the speakers and the panelists for joining us today, for the great contributions. And with that, I would like to hand over back to you, Helle, to close this webinar.
Thank you very much, Kristina. And I also want to thank everyone who have contributed to presenting our new strategy today. I actually also want to thank each and every staff member in ICARS who have contributed to the development of a new strategy. It's actually been a very inclusive process across the organization, but we've actually also interacted with a number of central partners to ICARS in this process. So I really also want to extend a warm thank you to all of them for also giving us their advice and their input in this important process for us. Now, I want to recognize that a lot of information was shared in a short period of time here. So as you can see on the screen now, please do go onto our website, read the strategy, and also take part in all the resources that are available there. This is really where you will find more information about all of our projects, our activities, and also starting to come out now the results. So do go there and be inspired, I would say. On our side, I think what we really want to communicate here towards the end is excitement. Excitement to move into a new strategy period, excitement to be building on all the learnings that we have done over the last 5-6 years, and also actually hope, because I think in the world today, that's actually what is needed. And I shared very small examples, but very impactful examples of some of the results that we are starting to achieve. Change is possible. I think that is the main message of the work of ICARS. Solutions are there, and they can actually be implemented also in settings where there are many other challenges to address. So we look forward to continuing this work, this important work. We look forward to doing it in close partnership with all of our very dear partners, both in the countries where we're implementing, but also in terms of all the global partners that we have, and of course, not least the funding partners, which are of course very important to the work of ICARS. So thanks a lot for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for your continued support to our work, and we look forward to connecting and to take forward the important agenda of addressing antimicrobial resistance in low and middle income countries, but really also across the globe. Thank you.